Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about a movie that is coming out, or that is, I shouldn't say that is coming out, that has just been announced, that is going to be starring Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana. Um, this thing, I'm going to be very blunt to start off. This looks like a complete train wreck, immediately. And I already have horrible, horrible feelings about this given the way that this movie is being described and who is also doing it. Now, here's the thing. When you watch a biopic a lot of the time, an older biopic, a lot of the times it spans multiple years of somebody's life. There are exceptions to this. But in this case, this movie is literally going to take place over a 3-day period of Princess Diana's life when she, during a holiday weekend at Christmas, where she decided that she was going to leave Prince Charles because of infidelity. Um, and this was huge news back in the mid '90s, where the royal family was having a divorce and all this other stuff. But there's I can see a plethora of issues happening with this film, both from a social standpoint, an actual technical and filming standpoint, and a story standpoint. So let's kind of go over the story stuff first. This is a very, very limited portion of her life. It is literally 3 days, and they state this. It is actually 3 days. And look, a lot can happen in 3 days. I get that, but the only thing I could kind of compare that time frame to might be Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln, where that's supposed to take place, I believe, during the final months of his life. I don't think or weeks maybe, not like 3 days, but at the same time, it's supposed to be the end of the Civil War, and also Lincoln trying to figure out how to free the slaves and reincorporate the South into the Union, because it was obvious at that point that the Union was going to win the Civil War. So there was a lot going on in that time period that they're talking about. In this, it's literally her deciding to leave her husband and give up the royal family, or at least some portion of it, because obviously she had 2 children with him, so she's still connected to it no matter what. But I think that they give this a lot of kind of... Here's the thing. Princess Diana died in a very tragic manner, and when she was not very old. I think at the time, she wasn't even 40. I think she was like 36. And she was killed in a car accident. And even though that's a very tragic death, ultimately, really, she was a tabloid star for a long time because she was married into the royal family. It was kind of, the director who did this also did a Jackie O, or a Jackie Kennedy, Jackie Onassis, whatever you want to say, biopic that starred Natalie Portman. And I see a little bit of similarities in the way that Jackie Onassis was compared to what Princess Diana was, in terms of, married to very powerful men. Iconic women who kind of stood out from the crowd. I get the idea behind that, but the difference is that Jackie Onassis saw her husband, who was the president, get his head blown off in a fucking car when she was sitting next to him. Like, that is a moment in history that will never be forgotten around the world, when John F. Kennedy was killed. And then, you follow the stuff that happened later on in her life as well, when, she remarried and stuff like that. And then you also have the tragic death of her son and other things. So I don't know if she had passed on by the time John Jr. Died in the plane crash, but I don't think she did. But there are very sincere differences where Diana divorced somebody because he cheated on her. Nobody died. Her husband didn't get his head blown off. Okay, and that's not me disparaging against English people or anything like that either. I know it was a very big deal at the time. It's a big deal, period. Especially for English people, because the royalty is that's their monarchy. It's been in place for hundreds and hundreds of years. I get the idea, but at the same time, she just divorced him. The only reason why anybody remembers that is because she died very tragically, and there was a lot of mystery around it. But I don't think that she's a figure that you just take 3 days out of her life and you say we're gonna make a movie out of those 3 days. If you're gonna do a biopic on this woman, you do a biopic on her. You do a biopic on her from, if you want to see how this marriage failed, if you want to do a biopic on that, why wouldn't you start at the actual moment that these two met? Have a little bit of build up, have them meet in the film, and then you go through the paces and you touch on the major events. And then, she gets divorced and stuff like that. You don't have to show the death and everything at the end. But the other thing is that because they're only showing these 3 days, they've also said they're going to omit the final 2 years of her life where she was not married to Charles, where she was going around and basically being a philanthropist in the public spotlight, and her death in 1997. So you're editing out really most of the major stuff that happened after that fact. Like the divorce really was kind of the beginning of it, and then they kind of just don't go into anything else. So I think it's a very shallow premise to go with for a film, unless I feel like this is something that's probably going to try and be Oscar bait. But I have a problem with it from a story perspective because of that, because it is so limited to what it is. And then the other issue I have with it is that you have Kristen Stewart, who's going to be starring as Princess Diana. There are a multitude of issues with that casting. And the first one is that Kristen Stewart is not good at the box office right now. She's been in 2 back-to-back flops within the last 6 months. She was in, actually, no, within the last year, I should say, because I think Charlie's Angels came out a little after 6 months. A little after 6 months ago, but she was in Underwater, which was a flop. It didn't even make its budget back. And she was also in, like I said, Charlie's Angels, which again was abysmal and did not make its money back. So the last 2 films that she's done have been horrifically bad. And usually that means you don't get work for a little while, or maybe you get lesser work until you kind of work your way back up. In this scenario, she seems to be getting rewarded for it, which is kind of strange to me. And the other thing is, again, I get the idea of getting a young actress who's kind of she's been in Hollywood for a long time. It's been a while since the Twilight movies, and I know that it's not. I know that a lot of people in Hollywood come out and say this stuff, because actors can play anybody. The idea should still be quaint. But I have a funny feeling that maybe the English audience, I'm talking about not the American audience. I don't think the American audience is really going to care about this film. But the English audience, which is really kind of the people that I would assume you'd be marketing this film to, you're going to put somebody in the lead role of somebody who was a very iconic member of the royal family, an English woman, and you're going to replace her with an American woman. Now, again, I have no problem with actors getting various jobs and under various guises and stuff like that. Having somebody play a different nationality has happened many times. But I feel like that's going to cause a negative reaction in England or in the United Kingdom, because a lot of people still hold her in very high regard. In fact, a lot of people around the world do. And the other thing is that kind of also factors into that is her sons are both still alive. They're not dead. They're both married with I think they both have kids now. I know the older one does. But I have a funny feeling that they're going to have a few harsh words to say about this as well. Now, there was a Diana movie that was done with, I believe it was actually called Diana, that was done with Nicole Kidman not long ago. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. And it did not get very good reviews. I don't expect this film to get good reviews. And the thing is, they've literally almost lined up the dominoes on this thing. So when they fall, they just hit the nuke button. Because this thing is not going to make money unless its budget is microscopic. And I could see that given the small idea. So maybe that's what they're trying to do. This feels a bit more like a cash grab because you're trying to Again, that doesn't even really make sense with a cash grab because I mean, it's usually that's one of those kind of things where you strike when the iron's hot or something like that. This movie would have come out in like 2000 or something. But it feels like they're trying to use her name in order to get money for this film. Now, the other thing is, I don't necessarily know if they've gotten permission from the family to do this, or if they've asked for, well, not permission, but if they've asked for, you know, I guess I don't know exactly what you'd call it. If they've asked the family if it would be all right with them if they did this. I have a funny feeling the movie studio and the director and any of the actors have not said a damn word to anybody in the royal family about this, and this is probably the first they're hearing of it is the news articles that have been released today. But there's three different phases of problems with this film, and it hasn't even been written yet. Or at least if it has, it's not. I don't think the scripting is complete. Or if it is, it's probably going to go through a couple more drafts before they actually get to filming. But there are a couple little bright spots. The script itself, or the initial script, is being written by Stephen Knight, who did Peaky Blinders. He also did David Cronenberg's Eastern Promises, a movie I've never seen, and I'm actually a very big fan of Cronenberg. So I don't know what that tells you, but I know a lot of people really do like Peaky Blinders, so I could say that at least you got a good writer. So I guess that's the one thing you can hang your hat on at this point. I don't know. They haven't listed any other actors that are attached to the film. Who's going to be playing Prince Charles, or who's going to be playing, any of the other major characters in the film, the Queen, or anybody else. If anything is going to be going on with that, this is an initial announcement. And I know it sounds like I'm kind of shitting on this initially, and I am. But the thing is I feel like this is not a good thing to dive into in the way they're doing it. Because what a biopic used to mean was something akin to like a Citizen Kane style of storytelling, where you start out when they're young and then you end when they're old. It's kind of like a Goodfellas, or that's kind of most Scorsese films, actually, if you want to go down that road, or at least most of his later ones. Goodfellas, Casino, The Irishman, Wolf of Wall Street, to it in a sense. But most biopics, they carry on, and they examine years of a person's life as opposed to days or weeks. And like I said, the only one that I can think of that really examines somebody in a very limited time frame is Lincoln. But that limited time frame was very important, and we get that. The other thing is, I feel like they're going to do the feminist spin on this. They're going to do the feminist spin on this hard. Especially because they have Kristen Stewart in the lead role, which again was something that killed Charlie's Angels horribly, because that shit bled even right into the trailer. They opened the trailer with it, and nobody liked it. Nobody wanted it. This strikes me as a film that nobody asked for, nobody wants, especially probably her family. Nobody wants, and probably nobody's going to watch. And I know that's a little harsh, but it's nothing about this other than the writer looks good at the moment. But I want to know what you think. Do you think that we need another Princess Diana movie? Do you think that this is a good idea to, go forward with this film and have Kristen Stewart star? Or do you think, like me, that you are literally watching the beginning of what is about to happen with a train wreck? Like, you can see the train going towards the brick wall and you're just waiting for it to hit. But I want to know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments below, as usual. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?